Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against it and with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to Please Remain Calm. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I'm Daniel Gonzalez. As always, folks, the opinions expressed here on the Please Remain Calm podcast are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services. Right off the bat, folks, I want to take a minute and talk about our sponsors. Hey guys, I want to talk about our sponsor, CBD Living Water. I've said it on the show, in the past, all I drink is water. I love drinking water. It's really the only thing that refreshes me. As I go throughout my day as a firefighter at the fire station, I sweat through my uniform throughout the day, whether it's, drilling for a structure fire, teaching the rookie, when we actually get a fire, or if we're doing CPR, or just running calls throughout the day. You sweat, you lose those electrolytes, and throughout the day, I like to replenish and rehydrate with CBD Living Water. When it came time for us to find a sponsor and we got approached by CBD Living Water, we jumped at the opportunity. It's an amazing product. It stimulates your CB1, CB2 receptors and stimulates your immune system. It's also alkaline, which is amazing for you. Listen, you guys have to replenish, you have to rehydrate throughout the day. Anyways, give CBD Living Water a chance. Like I said, I drink it all throughout the day. I've taken a case over to the fire station. The guys at the station are drinking it. We love it. The company has some great CBD products, so check them out on their Instagram. Their Instagram is at CBD Living Water. Check them out.
Hey guys, it's Ben from Please Remain Calm talking to you about Planted, a great chlorophyll drink. That's one of our sponsors here at PRC. We love it. It's great chlorophyll energy, clean energy, low calorie, a green drink, harnessing the sun energy into plant food into your body. You know what I mean? You drink a lot of green drinks, full of calories, full of sugar, not Planted. Planted only has 20 calories, and it tastes like a freaking Sprite. It's good. We love it. We drink it here. Get Planted. Get _Planted. No vowels. PLNTD. Get _PLNTD. Follow them, you guys. They're awesome.
All right, we're back. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to address something that's been actually kind of funny to watch, right? Because our last episode was, with Beto and Fabian talking about the Ann Haitians thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a trip, man. This is something that I've noticed and I've kind of chuckled at from the sidelines for a while now, right? Like being in the emergency services, being around like emergency events with cops, shootings, stabbings, domestic violence, human trafficking, like you name it, literally being in LA City and being in the really the armpits of the city areas that I've worked over time.
Yeah.
There's very little stuff that can be brought up that I haven't had some sort of experience with. Right.
Right.
So even with all the BLM protests and stuff like that over the past 2 years and stuff, all the bad things that you see, videos of cops, doing things that they shouldn't be doing and stuff like that.
Right.
Even a lot of that stuff that people get worked up about, it's I can see a video and I can see where it went wrong, right? But I can having been through and been in situations and scenarios like that, I can see how that happened, how it got to that point. What the cop was thinking, he probably didn't have a bad intention and it just escalated to this. Now this guy did this and it was whoa, this happened, Yeah. I can see these things unfold. And then being involved with social media and the podcast, and obviously I run the 63s page, right. For my station and stuff. Being on social media a lot, you see how things can conspiracy theories can come up and things can get twisted around and stuff like that. And this whole entire completely left far out narrative can come into focus for people and get this following, and you're sitting here on the sidelines whoa, what the hell?
Yeah,
where did that
totally.
come from?
And it happens fast.
So roundabout takes us to the yesterday's episode, right? Or last week's episode. So man, there are some conspiracy theories out there about what happened with Anne Hayes.
Oh, I haven't even been in the comments really.
Oh
dude,
my God, dude.
Since we posted that stuff.
You know, she was making a documentary about human trafficking, so the government was out to get her. They hacked her car. They drove her car for her 80 miles an hour. You know, the fire department was involved in it. That's why they're taking it, you know, because obviously they're like, news helicopters were over. There's all this footage of the accident and stuff like that, right?
Wow.
So, you know, why did they take her out this way? Why weren't they doing this? Why were there's like all these different like crazy conspiracy theories, right? So without getting too much into it, because we do have an episode coming up where we're going to kind of break down the fire department response.
Yeah, which will debunk all these theories, yeah.
But I just wanted to say, because I have been kind of, you know, we did the episode, and so we've been like promoting it and stuff. And so I've been going through the kind of like typing in the comments, hey, check out our episode. You know, we kind of cover all this stuff. Yeah. But I just want to put out there that if you are in that realm, in that world, and you're giving credence to these conspiracy theories, I guarantee you that the people of the Los Angeles Fire Department, and really every fire department out there, paramedics, fire department, we respond to these things with the full and complete intention of doing everything we possibly can to save lives and property in that order.
Yes.
Okay. When we show up to an incident, it doesn't matter what it is. The first priority is saving lives. Okay. And everything we train for, everything that we do, all the training we do on a daily basis, the training for shit that we would like hardly ever even see, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like a car into a house with structural instability and a structure fire and a trapped victim, right? Is like a crazy scenario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like you would
be covered in that
you would
episode.
put forth to, you know what I mean? Like a battalion drill. It's like, okay, this is what we got, guys.
Yeah,
what are you going to do?
And then it
Go,
really happens,
you know?
Yeah.
But we train like that to be ready in that scenario so that we can save a life as quickly as possible. So without getting too much into it, I guarantee you there are no conspiracies having to do with this particular incident. Are there conspiracies out there in the world? Hell yes, there are. And you know, I'll jump on some of those. But
I'm just hoping that we're in the middle of some of these theories. You know what I mean? Please remain controversy.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I'll try to drum something up.
Yeah, right.
But I just wanted to say that and put that out there, because I have been getting like little back and forth and people, and then like people like watch the episodes, wound up being a really popular episode, and comments and stuff like that we're getting. And it's like, without telling people that they're, you know, batshit crazy. I promise you, people, there are no conspiracies going on. Stay tuned to Please Remain Calm, and we'll have a nice little episode where we break all that down for you.
Yeah, and we're literally talking to the neighbors in that episode who watched the whole thing happen.
Yeah,
like, you think
dude,
like, the whole neighborhood is in on it? Like, come on, dude.
Believe me, dude. I'm like sitting at home, like going through this stuff, and I almost want to put it down, but it's like drumming up, you know, interactions and stuff like that, and you know, driving people to the podcast. So it's like, all right, I'll stand this, but it's like, so, some of the stuff that people are saying is just like, man, do you guys, people like really believe this stuff? But that's like the world we live in now, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, sure is, man.
So back to today, we have a really great guest today.
Yeah, our guest today, we'll go back and we'll talk about how we know her and why she's on the show and everything too. We have Suzy Velasco. She's the nurse practitioner for the Neurosurgery department at Harbor UCLA. Harbor, go ahead and say hi, Suzy.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Harbor UCLA is a humongous trauma center in LA County. In LA County, there's about like 3 huge trauma centers and then maybe 8 or so or 10 smaller ones, right?
Yeah.
Another thing too with LA County hospitals is all the hospitals have similar names. So people get Harbor UCLA confused with UCLA.
Ronald Reagan UCLA.
The same way they get USC, County USC confused with Keck USC.
Yeah. And
they're completely different hospitals, but they're good hospitals, big hospitals that have a bunch of services.
And they're also teaching hospitals as well. Yes. So not only are you getting people that have a lot of experience with traumas and things they're seeing, but they're also teaching, you know, up and coming doctors.
Yeah, exactly. They all have resident programs. They have a ton of services and specialties that they offer, and neurosurgery is one of them. Harbor is also like a famous old hospital. It's Rampart General. Like if you used to watch Emergency, we talk about Emergency because that was like our favorite show. A bunch of our listeners, you know, were into Emergency, especially the older listeners. That's the hospital from Emergency. That's where they went to the ER all the time, was Harbor. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. Like the hospital that you watched, the
history of it
growing up as a kid is like a hospital that like you know work with now.
Yeah.
And part of my job at the MAC is presenting emergency transfer patients from other hospitals into the big county hospitals like USC and Harbor, because they have so many specialties available to them. And one of those is neurosurgery, which is not available to a lot of hospitals, but is often, a very life-saving service that's, necessary in emergencies. And so what we do is we call the neurosurgery department at Harbor. We talk to Suzy and we break down, what we have with this patient. She'll let us know if they're able to help and take the person or see the person in the ER, and then we get the person on their way and get them help.
Suzy, pull that mic a little closer to your mouth there. Perfect.
Right.
There you go. So let's start at the very beginning. Me and Ben talk about it all the time. Our audience is typically people that are like coming up and, kind of deciding which direction they want to go in the fire world, medical world, and stuff like that. What first sparked the idea of getting into the medical field for you?
Gosh, ever since I was a little girl, I used to be obsessed. Like you guys watched Emergency,
Yeah.
and I'm going to date myself. There was a show called Trapper John MD.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know if you guys remember
Yeah.
that. Okay, so I'm aging myself. And I was just obsessed with these shows like ER and wanted to do it. And actually, the medical field came into like a second career for me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of just was trying to find my niche in life.
Yeah.
And I just decided, at the end, I'm like, I need just to do what I want to do. And
Was it like a huge change? Were you doing something like totally different? Were you
totally
doing
different? Yeah, not even medical related.
Really?
Yeah, and so
That's always interesting to me when people, start going a path in life and realize, oh, shit, this ain't it. You know what I mean?
we've
And then
had that.
and then make a huge that's awesome to me. When
Like
that
we had,
happens.
was it Roger? We had a firefighter that was a sports writer before, and he just decided, I want to be a firefighter.
Yeah, I don't want to do
now."
this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I enjoyed science and medical shows and all these things. And then I had an aunt who was dying of cancer. And I remember she noticed I was at her house a lot, like when
Yeah.
she was in hospice. She's like, don't you work? And I'm like, well, I just got laid off from my job. She's like, just go back to school and, be a nurse and don't worry about the money. Just do it.
Yeah.
And, I just said, you know what? Screw it, because I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't do it before, but sometimes you just kind of have to grow up. And that's what I did. And
Sometimes people, I think, get worried about especially when you've already started going down a path, worried about the time, like wasted time, or time becomes an issue, right? Damn, I already spent all this time going this way, and damn, it's going to take me, 4 years to go down this other path. And it's like, I always tell people that time is going to pass anyways. You know what I mean? The time that's gone, it's already gone. There's nothing you can do about it. And the time that it's going to take for you to do this goal that you are contemplating doing, that time's going to pass anyways. You know what I mean? You might as well be taking a class, moving toward that goal a little bit.
and it goes by
steps.
fast.
It does, yeah.
Because I had to retake science classes because they expired. So, I mean, it's just that was just shitty, And so you had to go back. And But I was just nonstop. I was going to community colleges, UCLA Extension, just nonstop, just drilling through it.
And was NP the final,
Yes.
The finish line for you?
Definitely, yes. So,
Why did you decide on NP as opposed to, just straight nursing or any other route, MD?
age-wise, MD, no way.
Yeah,
It's just too
it's just gonna
much.
take time.
And then nursing was something I wanted to do. And once you're already a nurse, then you can just do the NP track.
Yeah.
But I already had a bachelor's. So I wanted to go to UCLA. And so to go there, you had to have your bachelor's in nursing. So I kind of backtracked a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did my associates at Harbor College. Then I did a bridge program. It's like RN to bachelor's at Cal State Long Beach. And then UCLA was the final destination.
Okay.
Wow. So how long did it all take?
A lot. So I think I started doing my prerequisites, I want to say in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated from Harbor 2007
Mm-hmm.
and then started Cal State Long Beach at 2010.
And you were working as an RN during that time?
Yeah. RN in the at Harbor.
At
actually.
Harbor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started off as a student worker. So they used to have this program after your first semester
Mm-hmm.
of nursing school. You can go in and kind of, you're kind of doing grunt work, just kind of like a nurse assistant.
Yeah.
All right.
Then you had these really nice nurses that would just kind of close the curtain and teach you how to do IVs and things that
Yeah.
technically we're not allowed to do, but here I am confessing.
Yeah.
But you learned a lot from them, and I just stayed on there and kept going to school. And eventually I thought I wanted to do trauma as NP. And
Yeah.
so, the neuro stuff just kind of one of these things just started. It was like little hints of neuro, and then eventually I ended up in neuro.
Yeah, that seemed like the path.
Yeah.
So you started there in the ER. So you also worked as an RN in the ER?
Yeah.
Okay, and we did some talking before the show and realized that your guys' paths may have crossed in that ER back then, like in that era, because you're saying it was like 2007,
the old
2008.
ER, because now we have this really beautiful one.
I want to say I was there, like when I was about to leave is when they were transitioning, when they were doing all the because I do remember having to go in on the other side and then like walk through the inside this whole damn maze where we got like a shooting and the guys, we got them bagged and we're like, God, and we're running, trying to get through the, because they did like a major overhaul of the hospital.
New ER,
completely new ER. But yeah, where I used to work in South Central Fire Station 57, the trauma, Ben talked about there being different trauma centers, in LA. The trauma catchment area kind of ran right down the middle of our district. Right. So in the south side of our district, we would take down to Harbor UCLA, or if we had a pediatric trauma, in the south side of our district, we would go down there. But we probably ran into each other down there. So you said you kind of neurosurgery was just kind of hinting at it. So were you an NP in the ER before you got to neurosurgery? I was
going to school, and I think it was my last quarter of NP school. The head of trauma had asked me, "Hey, are you done with school yet? Because I have a spot." And at that time I wasn't done, so they had to fill it. But he was planning on expanding. So last quarter of school, you're not even thinking about a job yet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you still have to take your boards and everything else. And then a nurse practitioner in the ER told me there was a spot in neurosurgery that she heard about. And so I ran into Marlon, who's one of our physician assistants, and introduced myself. And he told me, well, I think they hired somebody, but let me double check. So the next day he found me and told me they hadn't hired anybody, but just email the division chair. And it was Memorial Weekend. I totally remember this. It was like 1:00 in the morning. I'm emailing this guy, trying to sell myself in like 1 or 2 sentences, send over my CV. And we had the long weekend, and Tuesday, just, hey, you look right on paper, contact my other PA, and we'll set you up for an interview.
Oh, wow.
So prior to that, we have clinical rotations that you have to go through in NP school. And I ended up in like minimally invasive brain tumor surgery. And I thought to myself, I'm not going into oncology. Why did they put me here? This sucks. Best rotation ever. Then after that, it was Ronald Reagan and their neuro ICU. And so all these, it's like hints, you know? And you're
the universe is just kind of bumping you in that direction.
What about this? What about this? And then I had this great mentor, and this is probably the best advice that was ever given. If you're going to do anything in life, like especially in a career, stick to one specialty and just be good at it.
Yeah.
Trauma, you just have like every body system, plus you're a revolving door of residents, and it's just like you're not... It's hard to be good at everything.
Yeah.
And I've been with neurosurgery for 9 years, and I still don't know everything. So you're constantly learning, and that was probably the best advice that she's ever given me.
Yeah.
And then, then I had to meet the neurosurgery folks, and they had already, I think, were planning on hiring my co-classmate.
Yeah.
So when I got to my interview and I saw her, I'm like, crap, this is the person they're going to hire. She came from the ICU at Reagan.
Yeah.
She's a shoe-in. But then she told me, hey, I accepted a job at Reagan. I just haven't told them yet because I didn't want them to kick me out of the internship.
Oh, that's too bad. Yes.
So then I'm sitting here going, okay, what am I going to do to really win this over? And my boss at the time was crazy because he's not your typical interviewer. He just said, what makes you better than so-and-so? That was his first question. And I'm like, I could go 2 routes, either throw her under the bus, and be a jerk, or just be, professional. So I took, the professional route.
Yeah. The high road.
The high road. But, what made me better than her is that she didn't speak Spanish, and I had to translate for their whole entire service during morning rounds. So
hey, that's super
valuable
at Harbor. Yeah.
And, the population, the demographics. And so that was like...
Sure.
And then I had papers and presentations I even brought that had to do with neurotrauma, and so he was really impressed. So when I left, my classmate texted me. She's like, wait till I tell them you're a shoe-in for sure, because all they talked about were your papers and presentations and
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And so here I am.
That is great advice. You know, pick a specialty and just be really good at it. And I feel like it applies to anything. You know what I mean? Like it really doesn't matter what it is. Even if you're listening to this and you're not planning on going into the medical field or firefighting or anything, you're you know, a plumber or a tailor or something like that. Just concentrate on your craft. Do it the best you can.
Interview process, like you have to be different than the next person.
Yeah.
So that my mentor that told me to pick the one specialty, it also say bring your papers and presentations on neuro, because I'm sure she didn't bring it.
Yeah.
And she didn't.
Yeah.
So
stand out. Just stand out just a little bit more.
You have to stand out. You know, my big weaknesses was I didn't come from neuro. She did, but I did come from the ER, and we stabilized these neuro patients. So I did have some background in it, but you just have to figure out a way to stand out. Yeah. Because everybody says the same thing during interviews.
True.
So as an NP and a PA, you work underneath a doctor's license, is that right?
Technically, a physician assistant does. A nurse practitioner doesn't.
Doesn't. Okay. So you're an independent contractor through them, basically?
In the inpatient setting in the hospital, it's different.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How does that affect, like what is your scope of practice in neurosurgery? Like, are you actually hands-on in there doing surgeries? Like what, just because I've never been exposed to it, I don't know exactly.
So it depends. It's all depends on hospitals and departments. We have a lot of autonomy, which is great. So, you know, we have pagers, which is really archaic. They'll call us, we'll go see consults. So we'll go to the ER and see something that's coming in.
Okay.
We'll do the initial assessment. We kind of just have an idea of, you know, it's pretty much the same plan almost. Right. And then we let our residents know, which are neurosurgeons. But as far as like hands-on, we do everything pretty much at bedside. You know, there are assessments. Some of us are trained to do ventrics, which they're kind of fun. If you like drilling into people's skulls. You know, it's kind of therapeutic. All right.
So hold on. So what is that? For the listeners at home, because we're also probably gonna have to describe the difference between like neurology and
basically where we put in a catheter into the fluid-filled spaces of the brain. That gives us some information on like pressure. We can drain, you know, fluid to lower pressure. Or sometimes we don't even have to drain it. It just gives us an idea. It's kind of like almost like you're checking a heart rate or a blood pressure, but it just gives us the intracranial pressure of the head. There's also drains called the subdural, where we put it in a subdural space where we're draining blood for some of those traumas. So some of us NPs and PAs can do that, or trained to do that.
Just drilling a hole in and inserting the drain?
Yeah, inserting the drain. Yeah.
Wow.
Just had you know, I work at Fire Station 63 in Venice, and a good friend of ours is in charge of the sports medicine program there. It's actually teacher of the year a couple years ago. Yeah. But you know, my wife, when she was coming up through school and stuff like that, would work the football games as an EMT for her and stuff like that. And there's some paramedics that go and do it. Anyways, just this past Friday, they had a kid that had a helmet to helmet contact football game, and 2 plays later brought himself out of the game, sat down, and collapsed, and he wound up having a bleed.
Oh boy.
I think they transported him to
UCLA, right?
UCLA, UCLA. But I would imagine that something like that. So let's say in that scenario, paramedics come, you know, they worked him up. He had some EKG changes as well. Headache, he was altered. And then they wind up doing their thing, starting the IV and everything, getting them over to Harbor. At that point, would the team in the ER call Neurosurgery for a consult, and you would be the one to come down and consult on the patient like that?
Yeah, it depends, because sometimes we'll know, like we've had some professional sports players that they think, oh, high cervical spine or brain. Right. They'll call us before they even image, but usually it's after imaging. Okay. They have something, or they'll have a, you know, high suspicion. Hey, FYI, can you just come down? I think this is going to be something for you.
And what are the things that you look for when you come down to consult on something like that? Like if we were to stick with that scenario, are you just
is like the big thing. Yeah. And it's always, because you hear, you know, pre-hospital, what their GCS was, what it was on arrival. But it's like, you know, I don't trust anybody's exam but my own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just have to come down there, you know, and hopefully they haven't intubated the patient. They haven't started them on sedation. But
Right,
that's like
right.
the big
You can
thing
actually
is
have a good back
down
and forth
dirty
with
is
them.
the GCS.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So when you do have somebody that's intubated, you can't really, you know, they're
It's
three
hard
clearly.
because they're either on the etomidate, the sucks or something, and you have to wait for that to wear off, or they've already started them on propofol. And so they try not to, but sometimes they have to get them in the scanner and they have to give them something. And
So that actual in-person looking at them exam tells you way more than you're seeing on a CT.
Well, sometimes you'll have a CT and it just doesn't match like their exam. So then you have to think, okay, are they, you know, do you have drugs on board? Or
Yeah.
do you have alcohol? Something else is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just typical, like you'll have somebody with an epidural hematoma and they look fine 1 minute. And then, you know, a few minutes later, they're just somnolent. And then you know that bleed's bigger and you have to take them to the OR.
Right.
So it's just like certain scenarios, but you do need the scan because it kind of gives you a little bit more of an idea of why their GCS is that way.
Sure. And then you have to make that decision too on like how soon does this person have to go to the OR? Because that's the other thing at Harbor is there's a ton of patients. So you already have a schedule of patients that have been waiting for all these procedures, and you have no idea what's going to come in through the door and bump those people or what, or like, you know, maybe in 6 hours we have to check this guy. And see if he's worse, and then he's gonna have to go up. So how does that work? Like, is there kind of like how restaurants keep one table open for?
So they keep like a OR kind of available.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's not just one of those things, oh, I'm just gonna take this person. It's like trauma kind of gives the blessing. So we have a great relationship, but they know. They'll look at the scan, they're like, I'm holding the OR for you or something.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of people too will get confused between the difference between like neurology and neurosurgery. And I know that you guys have to make that determination a lot of times because patients or patients will come to you guys and they'll say, hey, this guy needs neurosurgery. We call you with patients like that where they say they need neurosurgery and you'll tell us they don't.
Yeah, so it's and it's facility dependent.
Mhm.
So someone had once said it's like the difference between an attorney and a paralegal.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I don't want to bash on my neurology colleagues, but we're basically the line is anything surgical.
Right.
You know, but neurology also takes care of strokes. We'll get involved if it's depending where the stroke is, if they're going to have a lot of swelling in the next few hours or a few days. I'm sorry. They'll call us just in case, you know, their GCS goes down. So we're kind of in the periphery, just watching just to see if we have to go in and do surgery. If there's a bleed, they always call us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, because we'll just kind of be, you know, on the side. And it's like, why do they have a bleed? So it all depends where, you know, in the brain is the bleed. So if it's usually has to do with like high blood pressure, it's usually neurology, but we're co-managing.
Yeah. So basically that's if it can just be managed with medication, it's going to stay with neurology. If the person has to get cut, then it's
or
coming
if
to
they
you
need
guys.
a drain or something, because if it involves the ventricles, the fluid-filled spaces of the brain, there's blood in there, then we usually manage.
Yeah. And then you guys have to work with like ortho a lot too, right? Like on spinal stuff?
No, we usually do mostly spine. They have like their own spine department, but we're pretty much like 99.9% all spine tests.
So what's that difference then between like neurosurgical spinal surgery and like ortho spine?
Training. So obviously a neurosurgeon has more training with spine versus an, you know, orthopedic doctor. And I'm not bashing on them either, but
like what do they decide is this doesn't need neurosurgery, just can be
it's
ortho
like a
spine?
Sacral fracture.
Okay.
You know, that I think that's the line that draws. They used to take spine call, but then they got really picky. They wanted, just trauma. They didn't want like the, you know, cookie cutter, like compression fracture from a fall. They like wanted, you know, these really
For
bad
ortho spine or for neurosurgery?
ortho spine, like when they used to cover. And then our old division chair was like, nah, forget it. We'll just take it.
Yeah. So when you guys get traumas, what do you guys normally get where you get called in for a trauma?
Obviously head bleeds.
Yeah.
You know, but we also do cancer. So we have brain tumors, spine tumors, aneurysms.
Would you say the majority of the stuff that you get is trauma though? Trauma related, or is it a pretty even?
Probably I would say there is trauma for
Yeah.
sure. Probably up on there's a head bleeds all the time.
Yeah.
And then spine. And the newest thing now is what we've seen with gang violence is instead of shooting the person point blank in the head and killing them, they will do high cervical spine shootings
Oh
to
yeah.
paralyze the person. So we've been getting a lot of those lately because
Man.
they suffer more being a quadriplegic than dead, obviously. So that's like a new
Wow.
trend.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
You've seen an uptick in that, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. And they just know like to shoot at C2 or
No, I think they just go crazy and just start
Yeah,
shooting. But
there's one gangster like showing everybody a book.
Yeah, come here. Let me
Yeah.
Right.
pull up this physiology book.
Yeah.
There's this trend going on. I was talking about doing all the social media stuff. There's this trend on TikTok, and it's like, 5 things I would never do because I've been working as a such and such for 20 years. Do you have anything in all the things that you've seen in your time in dealing with traumas with neurosurgery? Do you have like a list of things that you like make sure your family doesn't do or you never do? Are there
Like
any,
like activities that are like, no way, I'm gonna wind up on the table.
like me and my wife talked about it, our kids aren't going to play football, and then something like just happened, on Friday
Yeah, right.
happened. It's like, God, that's exactly the reason why we're not having our kid.
I don't know. I get scared riding a bike like in the street.
Yeah.
Like I used to live by the beach and I would just ride my cruiser on the sidewalk until I got to the Strand. And people would yell at me for like riding on the sidewalk. And I'm like,
People
"We're
don't
in a
realize
trauma
how
center."
dangerous it
Oh,
is
yeah.
to ride a bike
die
on the
riding
beach
bikes
or on the
a
bike
lot,
path at the
yeah.
beach. So I work Venice Beach. We get, dude, I swear, at least once a shift, we get people that, you ride and the wind blows the sand up on the bike path and you go on a curve and you'll catch the sand and it'll just whip your wheels. Your wheels will slide out from underneath you. We get people that slide out and boom. Just the other day, we had a tourist, wheels slid out and she cracked the crown of her chin right here. Knocked her out cold.
Yeah.
And so we get her and she had, we have to wind up having to take her as a trauma because she's altered and she's got, facial trauma and stuff like that. But people don't realize.
It's just that easy.
But
Okay,
silly
so
things
now
like
I'm not
that.
gonna ride my bike on the Strand.
Well, even when we go, because like I'll take the boys down there, we'll rent a bike and go, peer to peer or something like that. I always tell them like, hey, when you when you guys go around the curves, make sure you slow down, and take the curves nice and easy. And sure enough, man, they fall all the time anyway.
So bike riding is about to make it onto your list too.
Oh, it's already there, man.
You
I'm
go,
already
right? The Venn diagram.
I
of
already-
Susie's things not to do, Danny's things not to do.
I already have like a safety, breakdown for them before we start riding.
Yeah.
And tell them how, because it's like the same exact bends, every day. It's either, death bend A or death bend B.
Yeah. Like I won't ride motorcycles. I don't want to buy a motorcycle. I don't want to have a motorcycle. Like I don't get it,
That's
man.
another
Yeah.
one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to, not that I like drive them, but I used to ride on them and.
It's the best.
Not around
It's the best.
here. Like,
Everybody
you ever-
always says that, like, I would never get on a bike, or how could you ride a bike? And I even had
episodes about it. Yeah.
I've even had coworkers that have been like, I had an appointment to go and pick up my bike, and the day before, I had 3 motorcycle accidents. The guys were all jacked, and I've seen some nasty jacked up motorcycle accidents. And it's just awesome. It's the best, man. It's literally like one of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here.
Go ahead.
It's literally like one of the things in my life that I've like been riding and thought like, this is one of the best things I've ever done for myself in my entire life is buy this bike. And then I crashed it, and then we had a couple kids, and so I put it to the side. But we're talking about
you
getting
crashed
another
it
one.
with your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
We're
have
all okay.
our other episodes. We'll have people who are in accidents or had just different, medical things happen to them, right? So we had a guy who had a motorcycle crash, and half the episode he just talked about how much he loves motorcycles. He's mad because he moved here from Wisconsin. There's no helmet law in Wisconsin. You can really ride and stuff. And I was like, but the rest of the episode is him almost dying in a motorcycle crash.
Well,
and like trying to
because
take
the
himself
other
to
funny
work.
thing about it too is like, I laid the bike down. My wife and I were riding home, residential street. I thought this lady was parking. I went to go around her. She was making a wide left turn into her driveway, and we slid sideways into her. She messed up her knee and stuff, and it was like, damn, it was scary. Laid this bike down, but it's like the best thing that could have happened for me for riding, because I was so comfortable on my bike. You know, I tell people, like, you get to a point where, like, if you want to turn, it's like you're not consciously like turning anything. You're just kind of like squeezing your left butt cheek and the bike kind of leans and you just go that way. You know what I mean? And so I was just like super, super comfortable. You feel like the bike's like part of you. And then something like that happens. You realize, oh shit, I'm just like flying through the air on a rocket, you know, with this stupid thing. I really should be a little more careful. So
it's just a chair on wheels, dude.
You really are just, you're flying through the air, man.
I'm in a giant cage, protected. Yeah. And then you're just zoom right next to me in a chair, bro.
Yeah, dude, in a chair. I'm just flying.
In a chair.
But it like completely changed the way that I ride my bike. Like if and when I ever like borrow somebody's bike now or go for rides here and there, me and Bernie are going to rent a bike and go up to see Rage Against the Machine in Oakland. I ride like an old man. I mean, I literally ride like everybody is like they tell you that ride like everybody's trying to kill you. That's how I ride my bike now. Like everybody's trying to kill me.
Yeah.
You know, and thank God I didn't crash and crack my head open, you know what I mean, and have some like significant injuries because that shit happens all the time. So, you know, I talk about riding a bike and how much I love it and stuff like that. It is awesome, but you know, you don't go through crashing the bike to ride safely. You know what I mean? You don't have to go through all that. Just take it from Gonzo.
Danny,
take it from Danny.
Right. Safety
ride
tips,
like everyone's trying to kill you.
Yeah. Well, we have Suzy here who has repaired people who have, you know, had the bike go in the wrong way, you know?
Well, we try to repair, but some are...
some are too much.
Sorry, Danny.
Yeah, right? Hey, you know, you got to hear it here. That's the whole point of this show. What would you say lands people with the most brain bleeds?
Ooh.
Like, is it just regular, just falling down?
Yeah, we got the old people that fall down on blood thinners.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got people who don't wear helmets.
Mm-hmm.
And then the drunks. I just saw a funny reel the other day. It was like a guy had to get away from your wife, and he's up on the roof drinking, you know, his like case of Corona and like turning on the drill and making all this noise like he's working on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, but once he falls off the roof, then of course he's going to get busted by his wife, and that's what happens. They go up on the roof or in old people. That's why I noticed these like 80-year-olds on blood thinners still going up on the roof.
Yeah,
trying to work on
tree.
things.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually incredible how often that happens, man. How often we'll come on scene and we're like, what happened?
Why are you doing this?
Yeah, I was up there cutting that wire was going across. It's been there for years. And I'm like, you were up where? Up there? What are you doing? But it's like it's the older generation, man.
Yeah, they want to do it themselves.
Yeah,
dude.
they want to do it themselves. They actually went up there and worked with their hands and didn't get on, on their phone and hire somebody to come and do it. They got up and did it. So it's hard to convince people like that. And old people are stubborn, man. Stubborn. You try to tell them, or even trying to get them to go to the hospital. Like that's the other thing. I'll have an old person that falls and they never want to go to the hospital, man. Hey, buddy, you got a big old, that's all right. I'll put it. No, sir, listen, and I feel bad telling him this, but listen, buddy, you're at your age, when anything happens, you should go get it checked,
right?
But especially with falls, old people are just, seems like they're more susceptible to bleeds and stuff like that. And especially if they're taking blood thinners, it's one of the reasons why we would take somebody to a trauma center as opposed to just MAR.
Yeah. So it happened with Chick Hearn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which you broke down in another episode. Yeah. Everything comes full circle now. We're getting close to 100 episodes,
I was doing my paramedic internship at Northridge Roscoe when Chick Hearn fell and hit his head, and they brought him in as a trauma. He wound up having to bleed. But I was all sitting there waiting. I told the whole long story in another episode, but I was sitting there with my just everything ready to intubate him because they had called and said his respiration was going out. I'm like, can I intubate? I'm a paramedic student. And here comes Chick Hearn. They're like, nope, kid, get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's what happened when Tiger Woods came to our hospital. It's
oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
All the attendings. So the hierarchy of residents, it's like an attending is basically you've already graduated from residency.
Right.
Much one of the bosses.
And this was not that long ago, right?
It's
like
3
years ago.
One resident can like touch him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually had the, heads of departments doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, exactly.
like, how long has it been since you've done that? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'd trust a resident.
Yeah.
And like anyone that comes in high profile to Harbor, he got stabilized and he was transferred.
Yeah, like Cedars or something to the VIP ward.
Yeah. He didn't stay. So what is like one of the craziest procedures where like you've been in the room, watched them do it, and like, whoa, like, what are we doing?
Oh gosh.
Have you ever had to remove anything?
Yeah, those are always fun. So you've had like one guy was bored to death and he used a wine opener and just started screwing the corkscrew into his head. So, and the handle broke off. So they had, to me that's boring because it's just in the skull. It's not like,
just had to unscrew it.
Oh, they actually had to go in surgically because there's no handle. So they had to do that sterilely. People running into like hooks where it kind of went through the eye, but not enough to damage the eye. So then it ends up in our territory. So we've had to like pull that out at bedside.
Wait, how does it not damage the eye?
It just like scathed like right through the side.
Roll right through.
Yeah,
Like, just,
I've seen that happen
catches
it'll
the
go on the
pocket.
side and go through the back. Yeah.
And just right into brain.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
And she was okay because they were able to do it at bedside. But then we've had other ones where like they've had metal, like knives stabbed in their head, where of course the handle comes off because it's like some cheap knife.
So there's just a big blade
just stuck in the brain.
Whoa. So they're carving out skull and they just resect the part with the blade, or they open the skull and then just slide it out?
Sometimes they have to open up and slide it out.
Man.
When you have to do something like that, how do you how do I word this? How do you know, like, obviously we know like generally what different areas of the brain do, right? Is it just gosh, I hope repairing this and getting, because as you're pulling out, are there vessels you have to cauterize as you're coming out?
They're cauterizing and doing things like that.
And are typically when you're doing this, is because you see, obviously like you see videos of like, people having brain surgery and they're, playing the violin and they're checking and seeing where they feel sensations and stuff like that. Is that typical for a surgery like that, or are people like that usually completely sedated and out?
Yeah, they're totally under.
Okay, so when you do have to like a knife in the brain like that, as you're pulling it out and you're cauterizing as you go, is it just kind of like you do the procedure, let them come out of whatever sedation you have, and see what kind of deficits they have after that?
Exactly.
Okay, so you don't really have any. You have a general idea of
like where it is in the brain.
Yeah,
that they might have this, and that's like something of course, when you're consenting them for surgery, you're telling them this might happen.
All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you consenting people for surgery with like knives in their brain?
Yeah, some of them you'd be surprised are like awake.
Yeah.
Or like you have these people come in with these tumors like the size of a grapefruit, and they just had like a mild headache.
Yeah, they didn't even know.
They didn't even know, or they just randomly got scanned because they were at trauma, and they're like, "Oh, you have this ginormous tumor in your head that you had no idea you had."
Yeah, we had a guest like that. She was a Fox News entertainment reporter, and she had a seizure, or she'd have seizures sometimes before she was going to go on the air. And she wound up hitting her head surfing and got a CT scan, and they found a tumor like the size of a fist, like right in the middle of her brain.
That's
crazy.
Yeah. Removed it.
Yeah.
Fine.
And she's working like 10 years with it. Never knew. Yeah.
Like I remember in grad school, I was having like these really bad headaches. It was like tension headaches, but it wouldn't go away. And I just like hopped in the scanner.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I have anything
stick
going
my head in
on, It's funny.
All right. The convenience.
Yeah.
Hop in the scanner. What do you like get excited for at work?
I love head trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm still, even working in the ER. That was like my favorite when all these traumas would come in. I like that. It's not good for the patient, but
sure, yeah.
But to work on, yeah.
Yeah, it's these high level traumas that come in that require like surgery. Sometimes I like them overnight because I take like one overnight call and I'm by myself. So I have to like wake up my senior resident, like, hey, this is what's going on. And then you just get an idea of like, this is going to be what we call red line emergency surgery, like straight to the OR.
Yeah.
And you just have a feeling, gotten to that point, like this is going to be bad. Like, I think you should come in. And, usually have an instinct, but that's what I like. Cause it's just a few hours of like nonstop. And if I'm not too busy, I'll just hang out in the OR and watch.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool. Like, so how long are the procedures? when they're like that?
Depends, just a couple hours, like on our part, yeah.
Wow.
Because they just basically open it up, take the big blood clot out, and you're good.
Man.
What where do you go from here? Do you feel like you're going to stay in neurosurgery for the long run, or do you have anything else as an NP that interests you that you might want to get into?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I have other little side hobbies that aren't medical, so
yeah,
we'll see.
Is it kind of the same for NP, like where you can make more money doing like, I don't know, like cosmetic stuff and different stuff like that, as opposed to like the medical side?
You can, but like to me that's kind of, I don't know, it's a little boring, especially if like everybody's so into this like Kardashian world.
Yeah.
And I don't know, people are never happy.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't seem fun to me. Like some people like it, but it's like you're fulfilling this.
It just tripped me out, when Bernie was like looking around different places.
What's available.
Just how much more money is available out there for silly things like that, for face fillers and lip fillers and stuff like that. It's just like, not to downgrade what they do. I mean, obviously there's a demand for it. And
make money, man.
Like I have a friend who's a PA, and she's been doing it for 18 years, and she can fix people without even plastic surgery, but people look natural. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're dealing with what's inside.
Yeah, I'm dealing with the insides.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what matters. Have you seen any stuff like that? Like trends, like where people are trying to like enhance their brains now?
No.
Yeah. Like, have you seen that stuff? They're doing like the 3D like modeling, like microchipping themselves, so they can log in anything with their fingertip.
Well, there's a bunch of research going on with that. There's Elon Musk's Neuralink
Oh gosh.
company. You haven't heard about that?
No.
Coming to Harbor soon.
I know.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has Neuralink, which is a company that essentially is going to there's, and I don't, obviously I'm not an expert in it, but implanted sensors or probes that sit on certain spots of your brain, and basically are supposed to give you the ability to look things up, access the internet, heads up display in your own vision, different things like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That they're saying are going to be up and running, available to the public within like the next decade and a half, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe third generation of that. I'll check it out when I'm in my 60s and see if I get my superhumans.
Get superpowers. Man. Well, this is interesting.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we always love talking to people, different professions that we haven't been exposed to.
Yeah, like different specialties and stuff. Yeah, so that was cool. Was there anything else that you think of?
I mean, it sounds awful.
Just share before you bailed. Yeah,
but there, and then you have the sad parts of, and then we deal with a pediatric population, which I'm not a fan of, because it's always really sad. But
is that so? You deal with pediatric neurosurgery as well? Okay. Because I know the ERs are separate, but like when it comes to things like that, it's just the neurosurgery department.
Level 1 trauma center, and it's because of neurosurgery. Like we deal with, the young and the old.
And with the young, what causes are you seeing that are causing kids to come in, to have to come into you too?
I mean, minus the alcohol. And you have some kids that do, the preteens that do some crazy things, but no helmets.
Yeah.
Accidents. They're not being in like properly placed in child, seats, or some don't. They'll think, oh, I'm just going down the street.
Yeah.
I don't need to put them in the car seat. Those kind of things. And then you have, they have aneurysms and things like that come in. Yeah,
but you're dealing with more like an emergency settings. There's not really like a lot of brain tumors with kids.
There is with kids too, yeah.
Oh, at Harbor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's sad. And sometimes they'll get sent off to children's as well too, because they have, they're a little bit more specialized with like their oncology, but we do have our share of some of the kids. Yeah.
But the majority is like peds traumas.
Yeah.
That come in. Yeah, that's awesome.
What are some things that a parent can look out for if, like, let's say, kids are playing, they hear a thud come out, kid's laying on the ground, holding his head, crying. They take a look, everything seems okay. We'll keep an eye on her. What are some things that a parent should keep an eye out for if a kid
So
bonks their head.
Interesting story. There was, I think it's probably like 12 or 13. He was riding down a hill, skateboard, no helmet, fell. Came home. He just mentioned that he fell, took a shower. But the interesting thing is he's in that stage where he would take long showers, that egocentric stage in life.
Uh-huh.
But he took a quick shower, then laid on the area rug. Like two things, like his dad noticed, he doesn't usually do this. He's like, are you okay? And then noticed within a few minutes he was just not acting right.
Yeah.
And your parents know their kids, you know. He just wasn't making sense. He was laying on the floor. He was getting a little tired, sleepy. He'd ask him questions. He would just like mid-sentence not be able to answer.
Yeah.
So they called 911, and initially like they thought, oh, did you drink? Did you smoke pot? Like initially that's what they think. And he came in and he had what was called an epidural hematoma. And he had to go to the emergency room. I mean, OR, sorry.
OR, yeah.
Evacuated that. It came back. And because he had like a contra-coup kind of accident, you hit one side, the other side gets affected. Had a subdural. And
Oh, wow.
Man.
Literally comes back to the pediatric ICU. Within half an hour, he's going back for the other side.
Wow.
And he's doing great. Like I saw him after in clinic, and he's, you know, now he's going around talking to schools about the importance of wearing helmets.
Helmets, yeah.
You know, I'm glad you bring that up because it's like, you know, as a paramedic, when we get on scene at things and it's a kid and, you know, kid seems okay for the most part to me, you know, but the parents are like, I always turn and go, well, look, you know your son better than I do. You know what I mean? If does this seem normal to you? No, this is not normal. Okay, then for me, that's a huge thing. All right, let's take a little better look at this. You know, let's push a little harder to let him, you know, make him come to the hospital with us, stuff like that. But yeah, you know, just the head is a it's a tricky thing, guys. You protect it, you know, at all costs. You know, it doesn't seem like a big deal, you know, riding your bike without a helmet until you fall and crack your head. Yeah. You know, it doesn't seem like a big deal, you know, screwing around and running on, you know, freshly wet, you know, concrete until you slip and you crack your head. Exactly. And you see videos of it all the time, all over the internet, you know, people slipping on things. And a lot of these accidents and things can be prevented with just a little bit of forethought and a little bit of care and being careful out there.
Awareness.
You know, when it comes to like riding motorcycles and bikes, you know, the laws are out there for a reason, you know, to protect you just in case something does happen. Yeah. So, just as a paramedic who's been around and has seen a bunch of things, you know, an MP here who sees, you know, the tail end of everything and kind of, the end of that road with surgery and stuff like that, a little bit of preparation, a little bit of being careful goes a long way to preventing a serious head injury that you never know what a head injury could affect in the future.
Exactly.
You never know what kind of function, you know, can be affected. You never know what part of your body might be numb, you know, after this bleed that, you know, had to be taken care of. And
like
stuff
she just said, you never know if they're going to drain epidural. Half an hour later, you got to come back in for a subdural.
You just never know.
You know
the brain is such a funky thing that the smallest little thing, the smallest little imbalance, chemical imbalance, you know, can completely change your personality or completely change.
Yeah, and the recovery is long. Like, you know, you injure your heart. Like, we already know a lot about it, but the brain is, like I always say, it's a very stubborn organ because you can have like a tiny little bleed and it does affect you. Yeah. And it takes a while for things to go away.
Yeah, you know, and you got to realize also there's no room in there. Yeah. You know, you get you bump your head or you get a bruise or you get a hematoma somewhere. There's room for it to fill up with fluid and do its thing and drain and all that stuff. There's no room inside your head, you know. You know, it's why if you get increasing pressure in there, they have to drill a hole. They have to drain that fluid out of there and stuff like that to prevent that pressure from putting more pressure on your brain and really affecting you or killing you. Yeah. So listen, prepare. If you're doing anything dangerous, make sure you wear a helmet. Make sure, you know, just have some forethought and prepare for things. Yeah. If something does happen, you fall and crack your head. If you're not feeling right in any way, shape, or form, get checked out. Just get checked out. Even if it's just calling 911, you know, my partners at work might yell at me for saying this, but even if it's just calling 911 for us to come and check you out and check your blood pressure, you know, we might check your blood pressure and it's like through the roof, or your pulse. Who knows? There might be something way off with your blood pressure, or with something in your vital signs that goes, "Hey, something's going on here.
Yeah.
Let's go to the hospital." If you're vomiting, if you got blurry vision, ringing in the ears,
if something's
all those
really
things.
wrong.
If you feel like stuff is wrong, you know what? That's what you pay your taxes for. It's what we're there for. We're there to be called out when you feel like you need us. But prepare properly. If you do fall, make sure you keep an eye out for any signs that something's wrong. And if something's wrong, you think something's wrong, go get checked out.
Yeah.
Time. That's another thing too. Time. When you're dealing with things with your heart and with your brain, time is important. Better to get checked earlier rather than later. If your head is killing you, bonked your head's killing you, you got a little blurry vision. God, I'm tired. I'm just going to take a nap. That nap might be a mistake. It's important that you get these things taken care of early if you do have something serious going on.
Yep. Wear a helmet. If you're 80, stay off the roof.
Yeah.
It's never too late to change your path in life. If you're doing something else and you want to be a RN and an MP, go for it. And the lessons of the show, you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Suzy, you were awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Do you want to promote anything or leave your Instagram or promote your dogs?
I have one dog and 2 cats.
Oh, okay.
I do have an Instagram, but I have a funny name. It's Biscuit 15. It was just a nickname in college, but I just stuck to that. You can always
Biscuit, common spelling, Biscuit 15.
Biscuit
Okay.
15.
You guys can you can find me at Danny Gonzo 34 on Instagram and Twitter.
Follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben number 9 Humor, like benign tumor on Instagram and Twitter. Follow our show at PRC Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or at PRC Podcast on TikTok, or email us contactprcpod@gmail.com. And also shout out to Harbor UCLA. They got a lot of run in this episode.
Yeah, Harbor.
All right. And thank you guys.
Thanks. We'll see you.